For those of you who have been in the Navy or in the Marine Corps, you probably remember an old saying when you're on a ship. Starboard's right, right is red. Port is left, stern is the rear, deck is in the front. The reason you would have to know that is because if you're navigating a ship and you're looking on the horizon and you see a red light on your right side and a blue light on your left side, that means that the ship is traveling away from you. If you see a blue light on your right side and a red light on your left, that means the ship's traveling towards you. This is a pretty important indication of that. Today, it's completely opposite. It is completely opposite, not only on ships but on airplanes. And I'm looking through some old photos when I was in the Marine Corps to see if I can get a picture of a ship that has starboard's on the right, right is on the red. That's just a memory. I'm throwing that out there because I think at least I've seen enough that I believe that the Mandela Effect is real. So I'm going to move on to what's causing it. There have been a couple of theories. One is time travel. Time travel is a good one. A lot of people believe that if in the future we're going to develop a machine that will allow us to transport back into the past. This violates a lot of laws of even Einstein. You can certainly move forward into time, but you can't move back because time is already written. However, it does explain some things. It explains the geode that was found in California with this is a 100 million year old rock with a spark plug in the center. It not only did it have the copper core, but also a spring that was seen on an X-ray, and that is literally an impossibility without time travel. So that's a very interesting cause for the Mandela Effect, and it certainly has some merit, but it doesn't explain everything. It would also explain the cosmetic items where we have CarMax versus CarMax, which I remember, and a few other things like Jif versus Jiffy. And I mean, there's thousands of them out there. But that would explain a lot, but the reason I don't really like it is for the other reason that it doesn't quite explain everything. I'll get into that in a minute. But another idea was that we live in parallel universes. This idea also has merit, and I'll tell you why. It stemmed from when physics started looking at where an electron exists inside an atom. I think it was De Broglie first came up with the model that the proton is the center of an atom and the electrons orbit around the proton, kind of like our solar system. Now, this was debunked later on, and we found that electrons exist in electron clouds. And yes, electrons can exist in two places at once. So that kind of gave birth to the idea that there are separate universes, and that, you know, in one universe you can shoot yourself in the head, in the other universe you decide not to, and then all of a sudden we have two separate realities that kind of intertwine like two snakes wrapping around each other, and occasionally they intersect. So this would explain some of what's happening in the Mandela Effect, because Mandela died in one universe and then he was alive in another, so we have a different reality that kind of winds around, and that would explain our memories, why we're having so many of us remember one thing and other people remember it another way. But all of that doesn't quite fit neatly with everything. And the things that got me thinking about another cause for it is that I read a story about a little boy that was somewhere on between Israel and I forget the border, but a number of years back, this little boy of 3 recounted a story of how he was murdered. He was struck in the head by an axe, and then he was buried after the killer killed him. He buried him somewhere, and then nobody knew anything. They just assumed the man disappeared. But this little boy took police, or at least the villagers, to the body. They unearthed it. And before they unearthed it, he told them that I was killed and I was hit in the head with an axe. And then he also identified the killer. These stories seem to be pretty common amongst kids of 3 and 4 that still have lingering memories of a prior life. So when we take into account science, yeah, there was the geode, so that is evidence of time travel. Also the London Hammer, if you want to read up on those. So that's evidence of time travel, but when you encompass everything that we're witnessing with, and the truth is, even religions have talked about this. In Hinduism and a few others, they all talk about reincarnation. Those ideas weren't just birthed from nothing. That's because people have seen things that they can't explain when they witness kids and they have strange memories of prior life, things that they couldn't have known just by being born. One of them was in the United States. A kid was getting his diapers changed, and he looked his dad in the eye and he says, I used to change your diapers. And these, weird things like that. And then they took that same kid, and they showed him pictures of his dad, and he was able to point out the car that his grandfather owned. So that's a little more than a coincidence. So this kind of leads to a theory of simulation or simulated reality. And I think that explains pretty much everything. Because think about it. If we're all plugged into this huge machine, and someone dies in this reality, does the operator of the machine want that person to all of a sudden just die? No. He's going to take whatever he has to keep this body alive, and he'll plug his consciousness into another consciousness, in other words, in a fashion that we understand as being born. That would make more sense because it would also explain the glitches that we have. Occasionally, a computer, in any programming that you get, there's going to be an error sometime. No electronic device can always reproduce anything without having an error occasionally. So errors are common in any kind of simulated device. It also explains the time travel. That too could be a glitch in the computer. But anyway, I kind of threw that out there because what I started doing is paying attention to my own reality. And one of the things that hit me that just never seem to make sense with just everything happening randomly is the notion of bad luck. The next time you have bad luck, I want you to do something, especially if you're good in statistics like me. Take and look at the probability of that happening, and then look at how often it happens. The thing that I recorded was losing my electronic lockbox key. And like a realtor, I can open up houses that are on the market with a device, an electronic device that allows me to entrance. Now, this is a pretty important device because if you lose it, it could get in the hands of a thief or something like that. So I have to keep track of this device, which I always do. One day, I accidentally dropped it in the trash at the same time I was taking the trash out to the dumpster. Now, by the time I walked upstairs, I realized what I had done, and I ran downstairs, and during that time, the garbage truck picked up the dumpster and was literally leaving while I was running after it, and the key was gone. Now, I calculated the probability of all those coincidences happening at the same time. How often do I drop things in the trash accidentally, and how often do they take out the trash? In this case, it was once a week. And I added up all the probability. It came out to be 1 in 120,000. Then I added up everything else that happened during that day that would be bad luck, like being the last in the line at a bank teller line, or being the last in a traffic jam. You're in a traffic jam. Okay, it would be understandable that if you've been waiting there for 20 minutes, there should be cars behind you. But how often have you been in a traffic jam and there's no one behind you? Add up these coincidences or this bad luck or whatever it is, and tell me if the odds are not astronomical. I came up with several million to 1. Things that happen every day. This would be more in line with a simulation than time travel or even parallel universes. Now, I'm not saying that any of these ideas aren't real or aren't happening, and they may be happening to whoever's hosting us in this giant computer or this giant simulated reality. But there's certainly more to what we're experiencing than just randomness. Something is going on. We are definitely in some kind of a simulation. There's just too many pointers that point to that. But anyway, leave your comments if you have any, and likes or dislikes, and subscribe, and I'll put up some more videos. Thank you.